Hi, I'm Laura from Duo, and I'm here with Carrie from O. We collaborated last week on an ebook around internal communications and the importance of getting that right in the times that we find ourselves in, and then really how to work with your team from a behavioural perspective to get the most out of them, and to provide them with the most support that you possibly can. So really, we wanted to join up today to go through some of the questions that we've received, and answer some of those for you. So Carrie, I don't know if you want to get us started.
Yeah, will do. Thanks, Laura. I think what's been really interesting in the last week or so is we've really never ever had to bring so much of ourselves to work before, from our spare rooms and where we're working at home to kids running past the laptop, dogs sat by our feet. It's a really interesting time for internal communications, and I think it's actually an opportunity to get to know your team a lot better, but a real challenge for businesses. So thanks for everybody that sent in questions. I'll probably kick off with my first one because I think it was quite straightforward, but it was, why do you think it's so important at the moment to get internal communications right? How can you tell if you're doing it right? Like I say, you can kind of look at it at the minute in terms of some kind of one size fits all, but I really don't think it can be looked at that way. We all feel things in different ways. We react in different ways. People are generally working from home at the moment, and that remote working provides quite a lot of challenge in terms of keeping a consistency of communication. But I think you actually have to make sure that you are quite fluid and flexible in how you communicate with your team. Some of them might need more support than others. It's a scary time for some people, for all of us. But some actually might not look like they need much support at all, but they probably will, and it's just finding the right way to communicate with them. But it's all about really keeping people motivated, and picking the right channels. So here at O Communications, we're using a heap of different channels to communicate with each other. We're all communicating daily, if not a couple of times a day with each other. I'm speaking to pretty much everybody in my team every day. We're maintaining weekly rituals like our Monday morning meeting over Zoom or Skype. We're having our drink on a Friday night over house party. So we're making sure that as much as possible, we keep the same routine as a team from an internal comms point of view.
Great, thanks, Carrie. So the first question that I've got would be, what would your tips be for someone who's incredibly process driven that now finds themselves working from home with 2 young children in tow? All the routine is going out of the window. Yeah, I think that's something that a lot of people are experiencing. I think really with this, it's controlling the stuff that you can control. We're in times that nobody ever predicted. Nobody predicted that you'd have to juggle homeschooling your children and working full time at the same time, all in the same, potentially the same room for some people. So if you're more procedural, it's inserting process when you can. Is that we use some techniques there's actually a technique called the Pomodoro technique, where you actually work in short bursts. So you actually give yourself shorter time scales to get more done. And it's often easier to tell the kids, okay, I just need an hour. What we've been doing with some of our clients is maybe meetings that have been longer. So we've actually been doing some training that was meant to be half-day training, and we've been splitting it into 3 sections so that people who have got kids at home it's not realistic to say, don't bother me for half a day. So splitting work up like that can be useful. Using systems so that if you're interrupted mid-flow, which often happens, you've got a track of where you're at. So using any types of project management systems that you can. We actually use Google Docs, but any online system like OneDrive, where it automatically saves stuff as you go. That's useful, because if people walk in mid-flow and then somehow you're using something that's desktop based and things deleted, really it's just inserting process wherever you possibly can. If you can find a room that has a desk in it that you can shut the door, then that's amazing. That will be even better. But really sticking to that schedule. Other ways that you can get up slightly earlier and blast through some things before the kids get up. It's really just not accepting defeat and not saying, oh, well, I can't get any process done, but thinking about where you can insert it.
Definitely, I would totally agree with that. I think for every leader, I think we're accepting now that the kind of general 9 to 5 or whatever your working hours are kind of out the window, and we have to be a lot more flexible about that, especially when people have got others to care for at home. Which actually dovetails really well into the other question that I was asked, which is why are your company values so important at a time like this? And I think this entire situation is holding a mirror up to people that are upholding their company values. I think it's really, really evident at the moment. We can all see that there are some big companies out there that are not upholding good values, and I think their customers and their workforce will remember that when we come out the other side of this. But I think whatever your company values are, it's really simple. The answer to this, you just need to demonstrate them, communicate them. One of ours is celebration and being outstanding, and even though this is a really challenging time for every business, as it is for ours, we are celebrating the little things as the week goes on. So if it's somebody's birthday or somebody's got an amazing piece of press coverage for a client, a lovely piece of feedback from a customer, we make sure that we share that on our group Skype channel. We're celebrating it. That's us just demonstrating our values. But you have to be entirely authentic at the minute. So it starts with leadership, but values are massively important right now.
Yeah. 100%. And I think they're giving employees even a way to behave, aren't they? You know, they're driving that behavior all the way through the business and actually giving them a bit of a roadmap for what to do. So the next one I've got, and kind of again dovetailing into that, what top 3 things would you say that great leaders should be doing each week throughout remote working? We've actually just put together a resource on leadership during times of uncertainty. And, you know, a lot of that stuff is, I think the first thing is, going back to that authenticity point, Carrie, that you made, it's the human element of it. I think people think that to be a good leader, and often in times like this, they revert to showing no emotion. And actually, a little bit of vulnerability can humanize you with your team. You know, it's even down to, we've been advising some clients, instead of sending out comms on email, you know, it's often easy, especially if you're running a bigger business, just to send out a piece of communication. Video yourself actually talking to the team, you know, humanize it and explain what some of these things might be doing to your family and actually the way that you're feeling about it. Often people feel like there's a weakness associated with that, but that can really help humanize you with the team. Probably the second thing is the change piece. You know, be careful with managing that change with the team. For some people, and often for leaders, especially if they're running owner-managed businesses or they're entrepreneurs, they aren't afraid of change, and often you can assume that other people feel the same, but often there's lots of people that change really spins them out. So having some conversations with them about change and, you know, how they're dealing with that, and it's okay to not be dealing with this sometimes in the right way, but how do you short circuit that with them? How do you help them move through that? Because you absolutely don't want them sitting there. So addressing that change element. And then I think really looking for how you get through this and who you get involved in that. Often you've got people that have got some real insight that you wouldn't think about. You know, we had a client a couple of days ago who has a lot of manual working staff who work on the shop floor, who work out on site, and those people often use a time like this to write ops manuals and create processes and actually involve those people. So often the people that you think potentially there's absolutely no work for at times like this because they can't work from home, this is an opportunity to get some real invaluable stuff that you probably don't have time to gather when you're busy because they're out working all day. So I think, you know, the third piece is really look for where potentially the non-obvious stuff is in your business that you've got a bit of space to look at now. It's almost that opportunity piece, you know, and I know a lot of people are having to pause some things that they didn't want to, but are there small ways that you can pivot? Even if you can't pivot your sales strategy, internally, what can you do? Can you work on some of those things that you've wanted to work on for a long time? So I think it's opening that mindset up and thinking about where some of the gains might be.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the questions that I was asked was, what's your favourite way to keep motivated yourself while working from home? I've always thought I've been a really motivated person, and actually sometimes work harder from home than I do when I'm surrounded by other people. But this is an entirely different scenario because it's enforced. So for me, I think keeping motivated is about keeping a routine, getting up at the same time every day that I would normally get up, keeping to the same routine in the morning, about reading the newspapers, online, obviously, checking the headlines, having my daily coffee. I'm taking breaks a lot more often than I would normally would if I work from home. So I do quite often work from home, but I tend to sort of stay at my computer all day. But now I'm really trying to build in regular breaks, get out into the garden, go and catch up with my kids who are homeschooling. I think for me, one of the things that's been really interesting in terms of motivation is I'm barely emailing right now. I'm using Skype and instant messaging a lot with my team, but for everybody else, with my clients, other business owners who I'm friends with, who I'm checking in with a lot, we're having lengthy phone calls, and I'm finding that's really giving me quite a lot of energy, and I'm getting quite a lot from that. It feels like a much stronger connection with other people. And then the final thing I think for me is just punctuating the end of the day, because I think it's very easy when you're leading a team to just work around the clock, and you have to really look after yourself. If you fall apart, business will not do very well. So I make sure I punctuate the end of the day in two ways. At the minute, for me, it's about checking the number 10 press conference. That's a really, really important punctuation. Tends to happen late afternoon tea time. So I'm sitting down and watching that, and I'm communicating the key facts out to my team and my clients. And then after that, I just cook a meal, and that's, for me, sort of signifies the end of the day, and it keeps me motivated, it keeps me relaxed.
Great. No, and I think, the same question for me. I think I'm doing a lot of the same stuff, Kerry. I think that just taking a breathing space. And I think often when you're working from home, you don't get up and you don't move around as much as you normally do. Where normally, and I know same for you, out seeing clients and doing training and delivery, and we're not just sort of sat all day. Exercise has been a bit of a savior for me in all of this. So thank goodness, before all of this, it was almost like I predicted it, got a Peloton bike, and that has been like the saving grace in all of this. But also just getting out and getting some fresh air. There's nothing like just clearing your head for 10 minutes. I think another big piece for me is, I know that we talked in the guide a little bit about motivations, and I know that achievement's my main motivator. So I've got to really watch that at the moment, because it can feel like when you, at a time like this, that there isn't anything happening from an achievement standpoint. My achievement is normally with regards to the business and growth and client achievements. And I think what I've been doing is just monitoring that and looking at where I can get some small wins from the day. And I think a lot of business owners and entrepreneurs and directors are achievement motivated as well, and are probably struggling with that. But it's, you get small wins throughout the day all the time. And I'm just, I'm having to really be conscious of taking some time and focusing on that. And Sarah and I do a sort of cross check at the end of the day. And then we do a team meeting on Zoom every morning with the guys, and we're really conscious about sharing some of those things, just so it feels like we've still got, we're moving forward. We're still doing lots of great things for clients. We're actually getting some time to work on some really great internal projects. And it's just remembering those and not letting it feel like, things are fully on pause. There's actually a lot of great stuff happening. So that's really important for my motivation levels.
Great. One of the questions that I've been asked, which will be affecting a lot of businesses at the minute, really is around if staff have been furloughed, how can businesses keep them engaged? Slightly difficult one to answer, because I don't think it's entirely yet clear what the actual rules are. If you've furloughed a member of staff, we know that they're not allowed to work. It's a little bit hazy in terms of what that means about still keeping in touch with their colleagues and their team. But I would say that in a more informal way, it's still really important, if some of your team members have been furloughed temporarily, to try and keep some of the kind of the office banter, and allowing them to join in with the fun side of things, like team quizzes or a drink on a Friday night. We use WhatsApp as our team channel for office banter, basically. So it's sort of non-work related. It's what we're having for lunch, who's done the Joe Wicks PE class in the morning, how are the kids getting on, pictures of my dog. So, you know, those types of things I think will be important to the team members that are furloughed, just to see that life is still going on and that we're still interested in what they're doing. We would probably recommend that for anybody furloughed or not, if you are quieter at the moment, this is a time to invest in yourself, and communicating that message internally to your workforce, I think is a really positive one. There are so many free learning and development tools now. We've just created an entire list for our team, so all of our L&D has gone online, and people are doing everything from, you know, I'm trying to learn French, which I did for A level and have forgotten most of it. Some people are doing creative classes, other people are, you know, doing things like Facebook Blueprint or Google Garage, brushing up on their marketing skills. So I think that's something that is a positive that can come out of not being able to work or work as much at the moment. For me as well, I think it's about making sure that as a leader, for anybody that is furloughed, you can't make any promises to your workforce at the moment, but certainly you can keep future focused in your language. So I think as a leader, I would suggest when you're communicating internally with your team, make sure that you're not just focusing on today. It's very hard to predict what tomorrow looks like, but you need to show that you are at least focusing on that and making sure that we all know this too will pass, we will get through it, and that you're doing everything possible to keep them safe.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We're doing a lot of that professional development stuff at the moment as well, but even just development of any kind. We've just signed up to a membership for that masterclass, and last night I somehow taught myself to use SketchUp and do interior design stuff. So even if it's nothing to do with work, I think it's super interesting. So I had a question around, oh, sorry, I think I lost you for a second.
Yeah.
A couple of people in my team are really struggling to work at home. They miss the structure and routine of the office. What can I do to practically help them and keep them motivated? Again, I think, you know, if it's the structure, you know, are they procedural? If they are, you might want to help them insert some process into their day. So, you know, whether that's a setup meeting in the morning and you're doing a team meeting and it almost marks the beginning of their day, maybe doing catch-ups over lunch or coffee in the middle of the day, and then again putting sort of a wrap-up meeting on the end. I think generally people are just, it's difficult when which is part of the reason we put together the guide, it's difficult to think about how people like to work at this time, because in the office you can see it, you can see the behaviour, you can sort of read the situation. So I think really the biggest piece is think about what your people need from a behavioural perspective, and wherever possible help coach them through that. You know, do they need the process? Are they more flexible and they want more variety? You know, what are their motivations? What are they motivated by? What other things do they need from their day? Are they looking for goal setting? Are they better at problem solving? Do they miss the team interaction? If they do, how do you insert that? You know, kind of to Carrie's point before, we're doing a lot of stuff outside of work because we know that a lot of our people are affiliation driven. They're driven by people and that team piece. So in addition to all the team calls we're doing weekly things. Guy just hosted a socially distant quiz the other night, which was brilliant. So it's thinking about making sure you insert stuff like that for those people. So I think that the real message behind that is figure out where their dominant behavioural patterns are, and how do you then work with them on tailoring their work around those, because they will absolutely, on a subconscious level, be more productive and be happier working in that way.
Great. I think for me, actually, Laura, it's quite interesting. I've actually found that not being in the same office as everybody, for me, has almost amplified their behavioural style. I can see much more with we're using Skype a lot, and much more as a sort of instant messaging, quick. We've got lots of different channels. We've even got one for the parents, which we call our kiddos channel, and we're all sharing stuff that they can keep amused with all day long. But I can see the people that took a while to get used to that way of working and were really very quiet and needed that phone call, needed that extra sort of reach out. For me, I can almost sort of see the ones that are very much about being around other people and feed off other people, they're the ones that are always on the WhatsApp and always on the group chat. So it's been quite interesting. Almost technology for me has allowed me to see their behavioural style even more.
Yeah.
Unusual.
And often it does, you go through a period of change, and often those more dominant patterns, you'll remember, Carrie, from the behavioural maps of your team, the dominant patterns become more dominant when you're put in situations like this. So there will be certain things that you will see. You know, we even say to clients, you might have to just give people a bit of a break at the moment as well with some things, because sometimes those behavioural patterns can go to the other extreme where they might not be as positive. And it's just people dealing with and processing the change. So it's interesting.
One of my questions, Laura, was how often should you communicate with your team with business updates? My simple answer to that is at the pace that it's affecting your business. We work across so many different sectors that we're getting a really good sort of barometer of who a temporary boom like online sales, but will potentially in a couple of months see that drop off. So they need to plan for that. I think for any business, whatever the pace of change is, that's when you should communicate it to your team. They will be feeling quite unnerved at the moment. They will be needing clear, concise information from you. There is so much information out in the media. We work in the media, so as a team, we're absorbing that all day long, and I'm mindful of that. And I do say to my team, sometimes you might need to just limit. I've never said it before, but limit your media intake a little bit. But yeah, you need to be clear and concise. But I think for me, it's about being transparent, honest, frequent as you need to be. I think you need to just communicate that you're not going to have all of the answers, and it's okay to say, we think this is what's happening at the minute, but it could change tomorrow, but this is what we're doing about it today. I agree, video is a great tool. You can use Zoom and Skype. I think what I would say there is, you know, try not to keep those siloed. Let your team as much as possible dial into those, but they can become chaotic when lots of people are on the call. So one person still has to chair that meeting. And perhaps there's only 2 or 3 people who are going to really contribute, but perhaps the others can just see that it's happening and dial in. There was a really great post by Simon Sinek on LinkedIn this morning where he talked to somebody who was a commander in a war zone in Afghanistan. I would definitely look it up on LinkedIn if you're on LinkedIn, because it's a really fascinating discussion just about that and how they commanded huge teams of people during a conflict in a very chaotic environment. I can imagine, and they did exactly that, rather than the top-down command. They actually opened, which was.
We just lost you a little bit, Carrie. I think that was timely. You were talking about Zoom and then we lost you for a second. I think that's the other point though, isn't it? That, you know, I think we're all feeling the strain a little bit of the internet connections. So sometimes these things work and sometimes they don't. But yeah, no, I think I'll look that up and read through it. It's interesting because there is a lot of stuff, isn't there, around how to use it. Sarah and I were just having a conversation. We use Zoom a lot with our American clients, so we're used to this. But she shared a Zoom call with her mum and her 3 brothers because it was her mum's birthday, and she said it was absolute chaos because they'd obviously never really used it before, so they all just were speaking at once. And so you're right, you do need a chair and a process. So really my last question was, do you think this period of remote working will change the way we interact with our teams, even when we're all back in the office? I think yes and no. I do believe that we will better figure out how to work with people remotely. And maybe for some people, you know, I've had some conversations with some of our clients where they've got international offices that maybe have a couple of people in them. It's definitely making them think whether they need that office environment and whether they could just do things remotely. So I think there'll definitely be more acceptance of remote working. But I still think that there's no replacement for being in an office together. So I don't think some of it will be as drastic as some people think that it's going to be. I think one one big thing, kind of, Carrie, you said before, I think we are thinking more about our leadership style, about what our team need. And actually, I think often some of those things, even with the best leaders, we forget that when we're in the office day to day. I know that, God, knowing everything that I know about that stuff, and we teach this to clients, I still forget some of that stuff in the day-to-day busyness, and I'm really thinking more about it. And actually, it's making me reflect on my leadership style with our team, and how maybe they need things in different ways. So I do think that is going to be the positive that comes from this, is we've probably all considered that more. I know I've had a couple of conversations with clients this week around their appreciation for their team now more than ever. So I think that will really stay, and potentially there'll be some changes on the back of that. But I still think nothing replaces working face to face with people. It's great to have the option to do remote stuff, but I think that interaction and that camaraderie and the team spirit that you get working together will always still be people's preference for the most part.
Yeah, I would agree. I absolutely cannot wait to get back into this. And that first meeting table is going to be really special. It's going to be a really special day, and I cannot wait to get the team back together. But also, I think we will see a lot more acceptance for flexibility. I think people will start to ask for flexibility more. It's proven it can work. I think there are natural behavioural types that maybe feel like they're more of a sort of coat on the seat type of individual. They like to come into the office to show that they're committed to their job. They like to be visible. They probably would never have asked to work from home one day. But I think that's going to change. I think people will probably be a lot more accepting that actually it works. And if it works for your workforce and it works for you, then it's something we could probably continue to build in. But yeah, I absolutely can't wait to get back together with them. I mean, really just to finish off for me, Laura, I think that the key message here is really about that. I feel our job at the minute in terms of internal communicators, leaders, is to make sure that your team are coping today, but also very focused on tomorrow as much as we possibly can know what tomorrow looks like. And not knowing when we'll actually get back into the office and when things will return to normal is a concern, but we just need to make sure that they are fired up when we do get back, because when we all get back to normal as much as we possibly can, I think we will want to get back to doing business, getting back to growth, and we will be wanting our team to be super motivated to achieve that. So we've got to keep them on that journey right now and just remind them that we've got their back, but tomorrow will come.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think that's exactly, our sentiment too. We've been doing lots of things with clients around, you absolutely have to do what you need to do in the moment currently to get through this, but not make decisions that just impact the now. What's some of the long-term stuff, if you've got stuff that your team are involved in, that you can continue to do and continue to future plan and make sure that they still feel like that future is exciting. Because it is, this will pass. It's going to be a moment in time that we'll probably never forget, but we will this time next year be looking back and it will probably be a distant memory. So I think for a lot of people, it's making sure that the team still see what that vision is and that they see you leading that vision as a leader, and still keeping them excited and motivated for what's to come after this. Great. Well, I think from us, that's probably us wrapped up. But if you have any other questions, feel free to drop them into LinkedIn, drop Carrie or I or our team's message. I think from both of us, we're here to help. If anyone has anything that we can help with, then please do reach out.